Once upon a tabletop, some adventurers gathered to arrange a mutiny. Hey everyone, I'm Jonathan Rutledge, and this is episode 1 of Colonial Cardia, Larks Landing, a 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons campaign being played at a local board game cafe called the Devil's Bench. The date is the 34th of Waxing Fall, and the noble's Lark is leaving Crorheart in search of the land known as Cardia. Callan, the half-elf druid, has just finished interrogating some farm animals. Before he goes back to what passes for his group's cabin, he decides to check out the hold. Searching around, he finds lots and lots of crates, mostly filled with food and various types of meat, a few barrels of apples and such things. Finding nothing of particular value, he returns to the cabin where he regroups with the rest of the adventurers. The noble's Lark sets sail. Stor, the goblin monk, goes out to explore the ship, searching for some people he had intended to meet. He doesn't find them. Later in the day, Deltria, their dwarven roommate, comes in from the galley bearing food. The stew, made with unidentifiable meats, does not look very appetizing, but it's all there is. Concerned by this mystery meat meal, Balasar, the dragonborn cleric, goes out to look around the ship. He's looking to see if he can find any of the animals that would have been on this ship when it was once a zoo. He doesn't find any. However, he does come across 3 humans and a dwarf, kicking at a half-orc curled up on the floor. Infuriated by this treatment, Balasar roars at the assailants, telling them in not-so-polite terms to go away. The dwarf and 2 of the humans glance at the 3rd human, a muscular man with brown hair streaked with grey and a circle beard. The man frowns but nods and turns to leave, spitting out of the corner of his mouth as he does so. The other 3 follow him. Balasar helps the half-orc to his feet. As the half-orc unfolds and rises to his feet, it becomes apparent that he is very large and muscular. He's covered in all kinds of scars, and one of the tusks protruding from his lower jaw is broken. Balasar believes that he probably could have successfully fought off his assailants if he'd wanted to. The half-orc thanks Balasar for his assistance and introduces himself as Gormbosh. He says he's used to this kind of treatment, and he understands why people hurt by the Empire feel the need to persecute him. They go their separate ways, with Balasar returning to his companions. Over the next few days, the adventurers get to know each other a little better. Kordak, the half-orc fighter, reveals that he used to be in the military, fighting against the Empire. Shen, the dwarf ranger, asks Deltria what she's doing going to Cardia. She replies that she's looking to start a new life and plans to open her own mine. Then, partway through the day on the 37th of the month, Deltria comes into the room and says, "I think we have a problem." When the adventurers question her, she explains that the ship seems to be sailing south instead of east towards Cardia. She doesn't know exactly what's wrong, but she was talking to a few of the sailors, and some of them, not all of them, seemed a bit concerned about this. Alarmed, the adventurers rush up to the deck to check for themselves, and judging from the sun, they decide that they are indeed going south. They make their way up to the helm and their halfling captain to demand why they're not going in the right direction. The captain says, "Oh, it's not a problem, we're going south on purpose. There were a lot of ships leaving Crorheart, and some of them could be pirates, and we don't want to have any problems from them." Most of the adventurers believe him, but Kordak and Stor are sure he's not entirely telling the truth. Stor keeps his counsel to himself, but Kordak continues to press the captain, asking him more questions, pointing out that there are no ships around them right now. The captain continues to explain the situation and assures them that they'll be turning east within the next day or 2. Not entirely satisfied, the adventurers return to their cabin. Back in the privacy of their room, Stor and Kordak reveal to the rest of the group that they don't believe the captain is telling the truth. The group discusses what this could mean and asks Deltria to bring them one of the sailors that she was talking to before. Deltria agrees and returns with an old woman with rope burns and scars all over her arms and a shaved head. This seasoned sailor, Marara, listens to the stories told by the adventurers, and she agrees with them that there is something amiss. She says she's never sailed with this captain before, and she knows that a large number of the crew also haven't. She hasn't found the sailors who have sailed with the captain before to be very helpful. She agrees to talk with the sailors she knows she can trust, and have some of them keep an eye on the captain. Now, more suspicious than ever of the food, the human mystic Gilligan sends his cat Pablo to keep a watch on the cook. After dark, before going to bed, Shend and Stor sneak out into the ship. First they go to the hold to see if they can find anything suspicious. Like Callan, they find just food there, many of it in unidentifiable chunks. They then find their way to the crew's quarter to see if they can spy and learn any information. They do. They overhear a trio of sailors laughing and talking about how gullible all the passengers are. The two return to the others and share what they've heard. Tonight, for the first time, they set a watch. The next day, Shen, accompanied by Stor, Kordak, and Balasar, the scary members of the group, decided to take a circuit around the ship to see if he could recognize the voices of the sailors he'd overheard the previous night. He didn't succeed. Meanwhile, Gilligan and Callan went to talk with some of the passengers. They chose a pen next to the livestock where the poorest people were being housed. They explained to them that something was wrong, that they suspected the captain was up to no good. This frightened the people a lot, but Gilligan insisted that they must stand up and fight for their lives. Amazingly, he succeeded in making people see things his way. The people assured him that if they were given a plan, they would support him. Before leaving, Gilligan asked one of them to step up as the leader of the group. A young human woman named Triana said that she would take this task. It's a little concerning that she's pregnant, but she assures them that she's a priestess of the Four and can be trusted. Before heading back to their cabin, Gilligan and Callan try to find the ship's armory, or failing that, some way to make makeshift weapons. They find that the Noble's Lark, never being a military ship, has no armory. As for makeshift weapons, they do find the ship's storeroom, but before they can make anything useful, they are driven off by sailors. They return to the cabin. While returning from his unsuccessful mission with the rest of the party, Balasar keeps his eyes open for Gorbash. Quite by chance, he happens to spot the half-orc with the broken tooth in one of the pens he's passing. The residents of this particular pen are all half-orcs, tieflings, and dragonborn, the races most heavily associated with the Samvidian Empire. Balasar enters the pen with Stor and Kordak, leaving Shen behind in case the dwarf would arouse the suspicions of the persecuted people. He explains to Gorbash what they've discovered and gets the support of him and many of the others in the pen. Then they too return to their cabin, where they're joined by Marara, who has new information for them. The captain is planning on selling everyone on the ship to the Samvidian Empire, Marara explains. She'd gained this information from the sailors tailing the captain. The adventurers immediately started making plans for their mutiny. It was challenging for them because they didn't know how many sailors were on the captain's side. There was also the possibility that the captain could have people hidden amongst the passengers. They were going to need a distraction. Marara pointed out that in a few days' time it would be the fall festival, and it would be a perfect time to have lots of people up on deck celebrating. The adventurers' plan was coming together. Gilligan runs off to inform their allies among the passengers what the plan is. Meanwhile, Stor and Kordak steal some apples from the hold. With them and some brewing equipment they brought along with them, they set about making some cider. Their hope is to get the captain and some of his men drunk. Now they await the festival. On the first of waning fall, the deck is flooded with passengers celebrating. As the adventurers move among them, they see that several of the passengers have weapons ready and are waiting for the signal. The cider has been given to the captain, who is staying by the helm away from the crowds. The adventurers are worried by how many crew members he has with them until they spot Marara among them. They believe that when the attack comes, they won't be alone. The captain himself isn't drinking the cider, but those with him are. Dusk comes, time for the attack. Shen climbs into the crow's nest and readies his bow. The rest of the group gets ready to rush the captain. When all is in place, Gilligan sends a beam of rainbow light into the air, the signal to attack. The deck comes alive, with passengers rushing to attack sailors. Up by the captain, one group of sailors rushes another. The captain is left alone with 4 of his loyal sailors. The party attacks. With their combined fire magic, Gilligan and Callan incinerate one of the sailors. One of the sailors rushes in for revenge, but Balasar blocks his path and takes a nasty hit. The 2 other sailors square up to defend their captain, who pulls out a hand crossbow and shoots Callan. Up in the crow's nest, Shen wants to shoot the captain, but there's a mast in the way. He settles for sending an arrow into the shoulder of the sailor attacking Balasar. This gave his dragonborn friend enough time to crush the man's skull with his warhammer. Stor rushes up and stabs one of the sailors with his spear, while Kordak goes straight for the captain. Wounded, but not out of the fight yet, Callan rushes to Balasar's side and heals him. The sailors are now fighting in earnest, but they can't seem to hit the adventurers. The captain, thinking Stor an easier target, maneuvers out to attack the goblin. As he does so, he comes into sight of Shen. The Dwarf Ranger focuses all his attention on this one shot and releases an arrow. Seeing a bit of movement out of the corner of his eye, the captain looks up just in time to catch the arrow right between his eyes. He looks startled for a moment, then topples over backward. All the other sailors drop their weapons and surrender. Using magic to amplify his voice, Balasar announces to the ship that the captain is dead and the fight is over. Slowly, the fighting grinds to a standstill. The adventurers set Morara to get the ship on the right course while they interrogate their captives. The adventurers only have 7 of the sailors that they're confident work for the captain. Upon questioning them, they discover that they are pirates who killed the previous crew of this ship. They also butchered all the animals from the zoo and have been feeding them to the passengers. However, several of the party members are bored with how long the interrogations are taking, and they end up throwing all of their prisoners except one overboard. The one they save is terrified and obviously an innocent bystander. Gilligan was able to confirm this by using his psionic powers to see his aura. The adventurers then investigate the captain's cabin, discovering it to be in disarray. They find a chest of gold, but before they can take it, Morara comes in and tells them that it's needed for paying the sailors. They reluctantly agree. They offer the post of captain to Morara, but she turns it down, saying that she's a sailor, not a captain. However, Deltria steps up to the position. She's not a sailor herself, but she says she spent a lot of time around sailors, and she believes she knows enough to pull off the job. Knowing they can trust her, the adventurers agree. They then claim the captain's cabin for themselves. From the body of the captain, Stor acquires magical boots of water walking, and Shend finds some magical studded leather armor which would be a boon for any man at sea. And that's where this session comes to an end. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and of course leave a comment down below telling me what you think. If you want to support the channel, there should be a link for it by now, or of course you could go and buy some chainmail from my website. And that's it for today. Check back next week to find out what happens next Once Upon a Tabletop.